Chapter 19, Home. Ed doubts he could ever be happier with Bella constantly declaring My cat just jumped on the bed. Constantly declaring in her sleep that she loves him, and he wonders if Bella would like to see his family. How would they react? But Rosalie was the problem. There was prep work to be done. So he runs home to talk to Rosalie. Ed says she doesn't have to like her. Rosalie thinks about how she can't look at her. Not a person. A waste. Edward gets angry. Rosalie apologizes, but she can't watch Bella do this, wasting her life. Edward understands, no you don't, and promises not to let it happen. No, you can't Stephanie, we know what's going to happen. You can't do this. It's bad writing. Rosalie doubts him. Yeah. And he says he'll find a way to survive after she dies. New moon. Rosalie thinks and has this to say. It's all about the here and now. No thought for 5 years in the future, let alone 50. What will you do when she asks you to change her? I'm just loving Rosalie more and more. Really, I am. Because Bella does not think about the future. She just wants to bone Edward and wants to be a vampire. Hello, Leo. Pet the capybara. Pet the kitty. Calm down. He'll tell her it's wrong. Rosalie doubts him again, and Edward asks that she tolerates her. Goodbye, Leo. He gives her time as Bella is going to visit soon, and Esme was happily anticipating it. Alice was preparing, and Edward says she isn't taking Bella's desires into account. In the next book, Bella doesn't want a birthday party, and you guys throw it for her anyway, and we all know how that turned out. She shows him her visions, and Edward wanted one with Bella older. Alice says it's not going to happen. Edward runs back to Bella's room as Charlie is leaving to go fish and puts her battery cables back in her truck. Bella wakes an hour later and is happy he stayed, thinking it was a dream. Bella hurries to clean herself up, then sits in his lap. Ugh. Sometimes it's cute when couples do that, but it is really creepy. He really does infantilize her. He's 100 years old. She's not even legal yet. It is beyond creepy. Not thinking back. Then realizes Edward left to change clothes. Edward says she said she loved him in her sleep. They declare their love for each other. You barely really know each other. Ugh. And he rocks her. Ugh. And says it's breakfast time. Twilight dialogue with Edward's commentary. Bella eats Cheerios. She asks if he counts as a boy for a boyfriend to introduce to Charlie because he's more. Edward thinks of what forever means to the both of them. Bella gets dressed and he calls her indecent. She's in a khaki skirt. I wore them as part of my grade school uniform. Boy. Hello again, kitty. Ugh. He kisses her, and she faints. I remember being really confused when I first read this when I was 12. And she says she forgot how to breathe. That does not surprise me. And wants to leave already. They drive to his house, which she is in awe and nervous, and she is introduced to the family. Jasper tells Ed Alice had a vision of strangers coming to visit the next night. Esme tells him to play the piano to hook her. Yeah. And he does. The family leaves them. Edward plays her song. Edward tells her Esme is happy, and she was worried that Edward was missing something. You don't need a significant other to complete you. More dialogue. The music brings tears to Bella's eyes, and Edward eats it. to absorb the particle of her. Like, we really did not need an explanation for this, Stephanie. A bit on Carlyle's theory of vampire biology, blood is absorbed into their bodies to fuel them. Like, that's not really, like, that's like some vampire folklore and, like, theories and canon. Like, it's nothing new. And Edward ate the tear to have a piece of her inside him forever, because only blood can be absorbed. You really did not need an explanation for this, Stephanie. He gives her a tour of the house, and she sees Carlyle's antique cross, more dialogue, more on how Carlyle was changed. Carlyle was slashed on his hand and his arm. Okay, so like how it was described in the book, you really, like, for me, I thought he was literally torn apart because he had to crawl, like, and hide in a pile of potatoes. Like, and Edward says he replicated his wounds on him. Like, you think it was brutal, but it's really not. He was just on his hand and arm. And the vamp fled because of the Volturi, not the mob. And Carlyle's wounds were away from major blood vessels, so the transformation took longer. And Carlyle would find out later that there were quicker ways, but he did it to Edward. Like, he knew there were quicker ways, but he did it to Edward. Like, this guy is not a doctor. He's not a doctor. First, do no harm, dude. Because he thought the slower process made him more human. He was wrong. It's just like different personalities. I think there's a theory that becoming a vampire warps your mind and perspective on things. I forget where I read it. It was quicker with Esme, and she was the kindest of them all. So, like, personalities. Like, if you're hungry for power, you're hungry for power as a vampire. Edward wondered if giving her details would deter her, but he doesn't give her details, and she's fine, and just more questions. And that's chapter 19, Home.